Hi, it's Tara Green bringing you the astrological aspects of the Gemini Lunar Eclipse coming up on November the 30th, 2020 at 4:29 a.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. So this chart is set to Washington, D.C. Okay. And so, the ascendant will be different depending on the location. So this is a minor eclipse. It's not a major one, and all lunar eclipses are internal. They're invisible anyway, so they have to do with the emotional body, and the moon is always the moods of the people. So, of course, in Gemini, the mood is kind of split, as we can see from what's going on in the nation and even in the world. So there's the moon there at 8 degrees of Gemini. I'm not going to talk about the houses. This is just because it's going to switch depending on where people are. So the moon and the sun opposite each other at 8 degrees of Gemini. And the sun and the moon are not really in any major direct aspects, although they are squaring Neptune, but it's at the far end of a square, a T-square. It's still there. 10 degrees qualifies for a square, especially between the sun and the moon. So that's the major aspect, is the sun and the moon to Neptune in Pisces opposite Vesta at 13 degrees of Virgo. Okay, over there, that's Vesta. Okay, so Vesta is the goddess of investments in Virgo. She is the goddess of organization, of being careful with money, of being kind of thrifty, investing in the earth, investing in what grounds us, investing in what's practical and what's real. Okay, Gemini has that dual nature. It rules the mind, it rules our consciousness, it rules thinking. So where the planet Mercury is the ruler of this eclipse, and Mercury is over here at 27 degrees of Scorpio, connected to Juno, which is the feminine form of genius. So that's actually really quite a nice aspect to have Mercury at 27 Scorpio, only 30 degrees away from the galactic center, okay, which is called a semi-sextile, a very minor aspect, but still, I'm taking note of that one. So Mercury conjunct Juno, it means that women, or that feminine form of multi-dimensional thinking, is really what's going to help us to find a sense of seeing both sides, but finding a sense of balance somehow. Okay, so there's lots of communication, lots of talk, lots of arguments, lots of splits, lots of indecisions going on based on this eclipse. Now, an effective eclipse usually runs 6 months. Okay, now what else is going on here? Well, of course, we know that Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn is almost at the 29th degree, literally it is, of Capricorn. So we're nearing the end of Saturn in Capricorn. Of course, it's December 21st when Saturn will enter 0 Aquarius and meet up with Jupiter at that famous point. So we're very close to that. It's the countdown time now. Really only 21 days to go. So we're in the last 3 weeks, the last stretch of that. So Pluto and Jupiter are still in aspect together. They are, what are they doing there? They're trining Sedna at 27 degrees of Taurus on the fixed star Algol. Now, Sedna is an Inuit, Canadian Inuit, indigenous goddess whose story is very tragic, actually. Her father abandoned her, betrayed her, cut off her fingers, threw her overboard. She ended up surrendering to drowning in the ocean, and those cut off fingers of hers were made into all the whales, the seals, the animals of the ocean that the Inuit people depend on. And so she's kind of an angry goddess. She's the only goddess that the Inuits really worship and honor, and she needs to be appeased by brushing her hair. So to have Pluto and Jupiter and Athena and Saturn trining Sedna tells us something about, she's in Taurus, but she rules the oceans, which means she rules the unconscious, of the collective unconscious, where it's been wounded, where it's been split off, where it's been divided, is really the great reservoir of wealth in the unconscious. So that's interesting. And on Algol, that has to do with being kind of angry and split off, and it's Medusa's head that's been cut off by Perseus as a patriarchal myth of controlling the divine feminine. Now, of course, she was an Amazon goddess. Now, Uranus is up there retrograde at 7 degrees of Taurus, opposite Venus at 10 degrees of Scorpio. So those two are creating a lot of havoc and change. Of course, it's good. Venus rules wealth, and in Scorpio, she's definitely the goddess of wealth and secrets and things going on under the table. And she's very sexual, very intense, very obsessive. And she's opposite Uranus in Taurus, which rules cryptocurrencies. And we can see that apparently Bitcoin is going to hit its all-time high again today, probably, and surpass that. So, and the stock market just hit a record-breaking high. And the stock market is Vesta as well. So Vesta and Venus, the V girls, are in a sextile to each other. And they make a kind of a wide finger of God or yod to Mars and Aries at 16 degrees. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So Mars and Aries, well, things are beginning to move forward finally after being stalled for so long. So Mars and Aries just can't wait to get going. So there is plenty of new activity, new initiatives going on. The asteroid Hygeia, she's up here at 15 degrees of Leo, on that infamous 15th degree of Leo. So of course we're all very concerned in our hearts about COVID-19. She's the goddess of hygiene, so you have to make sure you're the queen of hygiene there. And, take that seriously. Chiron at 5 degrees of Aries is also, what is it doing here? 5 degrees Aries. Trining the sun and sextiling the moon. So the two of them are also lined up there. So there's still some wounds, some vulnerabilities, some defenses going on. Things are not really going to move forward for a while yet. Still, I still feel we're in this stall pattern. And Venus and Chiron are also in conjunct with each other, and also to the moon. So the moon is forming a yod to Venus. So Chiron, the moon, are forming a yod to Venus. So there can be, underneath the surface, difficulties with women, with people suffering, with people being in the dark, kept in the dark. My sense is there's some very heavy energies going on here. Now, Lilith is at 4 degrees of Taurus, again, opposite Venus. So there's that dark feminine energy going on there. Now, I was looking up the Sabian symbol for this degree, the 8th degree of Gemini. It has to do with an archer, which is very Sagittarius-like. Okay, so what you want to do, what else have we got here? Ceres at 3 degrees of Pisces. Again, she's trining Venus. So some signs will not be affected directly by this eclipse. You can see Cancer is empty. Leo virtually, except we're putting in, if you don't count Hygeia and Vesta, some people don't. Libra is only touched by a sextile. Scorpio, in some senses, is not touched. If you have planets in Aquarius, you'll be touched by the moon. And then in Pisces is square, of course, to the sun and the moon. So any planets at 3 to 12 degrees Sag, Gemini, Pisces, Virgo will be also affected by this eclipse. So it looks pretty complex. We're going to go into another more major, the only total solar eclipse of the year, December the 14th, which is also a major day in the U.S. I believe that's when they do their final voting there. So that one's a bit more important. So look at where the eclipse falls in your chart. Think about how it's going to affect you for the next 6 months. Of course, a Gemini eclipse has to do with your mind and your emotional body coming together and talking to each other. It represents the brain, the mind. So the mind and the feelings cannot be split. You have to find a sacred union. Neptune and Pisces seems to be that place. And then the grounding in the body. So Neptune and Pisces at 18 degrees there represents tuning into the dreams, tuning into your intuition. Neptune will go direct on the 28th, of course, as well. So it's still at a very powerful point because it's just turned direct a couple days before. So if you want to get in touch with me, I'm at taratarot.com. Please sign up and follow me here on my blog and at YouTube. and my blog at infinitynow.wordpress.com. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, wishing you all the best blessings. My birthday is the day before, so I'm being personally affected by this eclipse, but I feel like it's a good thing. Anyway, blessings to you.